speed to wiggle, vision, explosiveness. But I think that makes it hard for defenses to just focus on one guy. And Coach Ward and Coach McGee uses us very well to our strengths and abilities. It's definitely a plus side to our offense.
And welcome into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports weekdays from 6 to 7. We're broadcasting live from the Hub today at the corner of First and Heeley. It's a brand new sports bar on campus.
It's good to be back, I would say.
It is good to be back. I hope these microphones
It is good to be back.
Yeah, if you're having trouble hearing us, we might be having technical difficulties. That's to be determined. But we'll surge forward and just keep talking. And if you can hear us, then you can enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well,
if not, just come to the Hub, and then you'll definitely be able to hear us, because you can look at us as well.
That's right. Come to the Hub if you can, if possible. Make it here on your Monday. We'll be here 6 to 7, the whole hour. We have Michigan State Colonnades Club tickets to give away for Dad's Day. What a better way to treat your dad to a U of I football game than in the Colonnades Club, rubbing shoulders with the Chancellor.
Absolutely. And free. That's always
right. Well, and you're not going to have to pay for them. They'll be giving them. If you come here and get in our raffle for them, you stand a good chance at winning them.
Plus, like we said, cheap drinks, $3 Coors Light, $2 Wells. There's nothing bad about this deal.
All right, let's dive into some football, shall we?
Yes.
Illinois won this weekend.
Yeah, Illinois finally gets their first Big Ten win.
It's been 5 weeks since they've won.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
6 weeks. They won week 1, had a bye week, had 5 losses, so 6 weeks since they won.
And it's a big one for Lovie, as it's his first win in the Big Ten. It came over Rutgers, a team that's gotten absolutely trounced the last couple of weeks, but nonetheless, they get that first Big Ten win, and now they're moving forward to play a very difficult Michigan team. But
I would say that's more than very difficult.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a word.
Nearly impossible.
Maybe the best team in the country, but not that Illinois has much of a chance on Saturday.
I think the biggest thing, we're going to have to look at this game and say, chalk it up as a very likely loss, but what can Illinois take away from it positively? They took a lot. There's definitely a lot you can take away positively from that Rutgers game.
Definitely.
I mean, that was offense, defense, special teams won all 3 phases. And I think the biggest thing for me was the takeaways on defense. They didn't capitalize on all of them, but that interception return, the fumble recovery, they had a lot of big plays on the defensive end that they were really looking for.
5 turnovers is the most that Illinois' first all season long. It's really the most that we've seen an Illinois defense produce since 2014. So I think if Illinois wants any shot to hang on at Michigan, and we'll get into that conversation a little bit later on in this show, it's going to have to start with that defense, Peter. But I think that defense is really where the conversation starts for this week's game against Rutgers, because to walk out of there 24-7 it's an impressive win, and that defense definitely put their foot down against those Scarlet Knights on the road and came away really with a big win on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and you guys are mentioning the defense, but I want to jump back to this Rutgers game for a bit, starting with the quarterback. Chase Crouch gets his first start as Illinois' quarterback. Looks pretty good running the ball, maybe not as good throwing the ball. There were some questions about whether he might or might not be injured. Chase answered that in today's press conference by saying he is not injured. His arm feels fine.
He was in attendance and repeatedly said, I'm totally good to go.
Yeah, and although maybe the tape might show otherwise on Saturday, he says he's fine. We anticipate that he'll be going on Saturday, but we don't know about the state of West's back. So we'll be updating that as the week goes along. But anyway, let's talk about Chase's game on Saturday. What did you see from him? How did he develop? What did you like? What didn't you like?
I think the biggest thing for me was that he didn't really show that he had the surprise factor that he had against Purdue. I think a lot of his success in that game, I mean, not to discredit his athletic ability, which is significant, but I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Purdue didn't game plan for a guy that can run. And so he racks up 130-something yards. That makes, there's some logic to that. That makes sense. I think against Rutgers is a more typical performance for a quarterback like that with a defense planning for it. The biggest thing in his game, he got a passing touchdown to Kendrick Foster, right? He was able to spread the ball out even with the maybe weakened arm, tough to say. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he managed the game well enough. He gutted it, Lovie said, he gutted it out.
Right.
And I think that's a pretty accurate way of what he did. One interception in the red zone, I would say that was the only real blemish only real like black mark on his day.
Yeah, I would say from an overall performance standpoint, there's nothing that really stands out to me and makes me open my eyes too wide from Chase's perspective. But just the fact that you said it, Peter, the fact that he stood in that game and he stood in that quarterback spot and just fought through all 4 quarters, regardless of whatever injury he was or was not facing, it was clear that that left shoulder was not working in Chase Crouch's favor on Saturday. So to see him still wear that uniform and fight for all 4 quarters for the Illinois team, I think that's the biggest takeaway from him and his game on Saturday, just to know that he's not going to give up on the road and on that team as the offensive leader. Still, I would have liked to see if the offense could have had more connection in that passing game, just because we didn't get to see that arm that we thought we might have seen going into this weekend.
Right.
But I still think that he showed he could lead that offense if he was called on to do so.
And you just mentioned his arm. There's been a lot of talk about what he can do with his legs, a lot of talk about the fire and passion he plays with, how competitive he is. Let's talk more about his arm, starting with you, Peter. What did you think he was a little bit hurt, and will his arm look better moving forward?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, if he says he's okay, we'll take his word for it. I mean, it's not, there's nothing much I know more than he does about his arm. I had some worries about it when it was fully healthy, as far as getting the ball down the field. I think against Michigan, the thing is, it's not really going to matter whether he can or not, because that defense is suffocating. Right? So, I mean, I'm not totally concerned if he can't throw the ball extraordinarily well against Michigan, because I don't think anyone will be able to on this. Westland or Chase Crouch, it's not really, that's not up for a lot of debate. This Michigan defense is stifling.
Right, and I would just say, from a health standpoint, this game raises some concerns from my end as well, because is it smart to possibly throw in a Wes Lunt who's coming off of an injury last week where he didn't play, or is it smart to start Chase Crouch who also got injured last week? But it's a game where I think the quarterback's going to be taking a lot of hits, just with how aggressive and how strong that Michigan defense has been all year long. I don't see why that quarterback won't be getting hit constantly in that game next week. So that's going to be the toughest question for me to answer moving forward.
So if Wes was healthy, who would both of you start then?
I'd probably start Chase, for the reason that if you have Wes going forward after that, again, I would chalk this game up as a loss, so I would start Chase. He's more liable to get out of immediate contact from the defensive line.
Yeah.
You preserve Wes's body for the stretch. I mean, not that it makes a huge difference, but just for the sake of the last few games, I think you have a better chance of winning with Wes Lunt than you do with Chase Crouch. And I think you get Chase some experience at homecoming at a stadium like the Big House against a team like Michigan can only do him good down the road.
I totally agree with Peter. I don't think Illinois can look at this game any differently than the fact that it's most likely going to be a loss unless all facets of the game are just playing over the top. So in that case, I would start Chase just because of the future for this program. I don't think Wes Lunt or Chase Crouch will necessarily be the difference in this game. I think it's the difference going to have to be made on every side of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams, if Illinois wants to win it all. And I don't think there's really going to be a drop-off between Chase or Wes. I think both will give Illinois equally the same shot of winning this game on the road.
And keeping it in the backfield, but from the quarterback play to the running backs, that's maybe been the brightest, spot on this offense all year long. That position group has been great. It's deep with Reggie Corbin, Kendrick Foster, and Keyshawn Vaughn all being, very productive and putting up serious yards. From your perspective, Jeff, what did you see from those three on Saturday against Rutgers?
Well, I think they just showed us how versatile they all are and how just dangerous they all can be as a group. Just to start with Kendrick Foster, he was the main workload all weekend for the Illini. He had the most carries out of the running backs with 21 carries, 108 yards. Reggie Corbin, though, also carried his fair share with 8 carries and 90 yards. And then we got to see Keyshawn Vaughn as well, and he showed us what he can do catching the ball out of that backfield, where he was able to get a short pass from Chase and break free for 61 yards. So I think overall, each and every running back, all three of them that we saw in this game, showed that they can provide a spark on that offensive side of the ball. And when their number is called, they're going to get ready and be ready to make that big play, just because they're constantly competing for that starting spot. They're always trying to get that impression on the coach.
And you are listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107. To you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1 for more tickets and information.
By the which is where we're broadcasting from live right now. We have Michigan State Colonnades Club tickets for Dad's Day. Again, what better way to treat your dad to Dad's Day, or for whoever's coming down or up or east or west to come to Dad's Day, your friend, right, your sister, your brother, whoever it is, take him to that game, sit in the box, rub shoulders with all the big wigs. President Obama may be there. He hasn't said he won't be in attendance.
And
he hasn't said he won't be in attendance here tonight, so you may see him if you come by the hub. Can we hit a few more Rutgers questions before we hit to break?
yeah, how about thoughts on the defense? They finally, I don't want to say finally, but they got the takeaways that Lovey's been talking about, and not only that, but they just looked a little more stingy. They actually were able to make real stops time and time again. What did you think about the performance from the defense?
Well, I think they talked, this was supposed to be the probably stronger of the two units. In a lot of the preseason discussion that we and other people had about this team, this was really supposed to be the stronger of the two phases, offense and defense. And I think the biggest thing that we saw in this game was they can put pressure on the quarterback and they can cover the receivers. And then as far as the run game went, yeah, they cut Rutgers had a little bit of success, especially in the first half when the score was even. But they managed to sort of bend and not break in the running game, and the pass defense was really, really, really strong. Dwan Smoot finally had his game, right? He's been being double-teamed all year, and it just didn't matter against Rutgers. Rutgers just wasn't good enough to get two guys on him. I mean, he hasn't had the stats he had last year, but if you look at a lot of the plays he's been making, double-teamed, sometimes triple-teamed if you throw in a tight end, he's played really, really well, and finally he put in some of the numbers to back that up against this Rutgers team.
I wasn't as satisfied with the defense throughout this game until Darius Mosley had the pick six for 78 yards. I still thought that Rutgers had a chance in this game up until that point of the fourth quarter, and that could have just been because Illinois' offense had only put up 17 points on the board at that point of the game. And I think looking back at it, I think that's more of the take that I should have had. I think Illinois' defense really put them in a position to win this game, and if they were to lose this game, it probably would have been put on the offense and their lack of ability to put up points.
All those turnovers.
Exactly. So I guess I should stop being so skeptical of the Illini defense and give them some credit, because they definitely did step up and make big plays on the road and really helped lead this team to their first Big Ten win of the season.
And it's going to be really tough to get their second Big Ten win next week when they take on Michigan. But we're going to talk a lot more about that game when we get back. We're broadcasting live from the Hub. Come check us out. It's a brand new sports bar on campus at First and Heeley. We'll be back in just a minute. So you're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
This is Clark Kellogg of CBS Sports, and you are listening to the Illini Drive. Enjoy.
He's an outstanding football player, great football player, special football player. It doesn't matter where he is, whether it's on the defensive side at multiple positions. I'd say most defensive players would like to see him on the defensive side and not carrying the ball offensively, whether it be quarterback, wherever. Just like I'm not telling you anything that's new. It's not a secret that they have a special player up there wearing that number.
This week, Illinois is not going to be at Memorial Stadium.
Nope.
They're going to be at the Big House.
A few more people there.
Yeah,
like
a few more people.
Like 50,000 more.
Seriously. What the clip you heard before this segment was Lovie Smith talking about Jabril Peppers, Michigan's all-everything. Again, he doesn't have a position. It's tough to label him as such. He's a sophomore, returns kicks, plays corner, plays safety, a little bit of rover, outside backer. He's a wingback. He's thrown for a touchdown this season, catches passes, does everything, literally.
Literally does everything.
Yeah, he does everything. And so, one of the several things Illinois is going to be doing this week in its game planning is going to be trying to stop him, because the guy is just a one-man machine. One-man scoring machine.
And let's start there. If we do see him on offense, we'll start there. What can this Illinois defense do to slow him down? And then also you can, on the second half of that question, you can talk about him and the special teams.
That's a tough question.
It's a very tough question, just because right off the bat, I can't think of anybody on this defense that can run quicker than Jabril just to begin with.
He's got both straightaway speed and lateral movement that's among the best in the country. I think the biggest thing about him is you have to be aware of when he's in the game because he's not a regular offensive player. So they're only going to put him in the game to give him the football. And so it's really going to be whether they have a spotter in the press box, whether they have a spotter on the sideline. Somebody's going to have to say, Lovey, Hardy Nickerson, alert, alert, alert. Number 5's in the game.
Yeah.
Like, pay attention because this is the ball's going to go to him.
Right.
There are guys that are going to be on the offensive side far more, take far more snaps who aren't going to get the ball as much as Peppers will. So when he's in the game, that's going to be a really, really big thing. Alert, alert, alert.
Yeah.
Number 5 is in the game.
Have we ever seen a player like this?
Yeah, I think so. Desmond Howard is a good example. Tyrann Mathieu, remember how good he was returning kicks? He scored like 6 touchdowns, and he was a safety that year.
Yeah, but is there anyone other than
exactly.
Desmond Howard that has played in all 3 phases?
I don't think there's much of a modern day guy.
Devin Hester was a little bit of that in college. No, I mean, at Miami, he played a lot of different positions.
Yeah, it wasn't as effective on offense.
Yeah,
though,
Percy Harvin, I think, is maybe the closest comparison. We were talking about that before the segment. As far as someone, and Harvin played limited on defense. I think he played a couple of snaps while he was at Florida. They had a really good defense, so he didn't have to play defense. But as someone who can just is electric wherever he's on the field, I think is Harvin. I don't know. It's again, maybe Peppers is like a player we've never seen before. That's part of the scary thing about him if he's your opponent.
Exactly. I think Peppers is a player that we've never seen before because I don't really think there is a modern-day example of a Jabril Peppers. Sure, you could say that your old Woodson example,
guys that used to
whatever,
play every, Red Grange could play every position.
I just don't think we've seen really anybody like Jabril, someone who's as physical as he is, as quick as he is, and really just as dominant as he is on every single side of the ball that he's going to play on. I think Illinois' eyes are going to be on him.
And they should be. I mean, there are a lot of weapons. Michigan is the number 3 team in the country for a reason.
Yep.
But, certainly they're going to have to watch it.
And with Jabril Peppers and this entire team, really, especially this defense, I mean, they're just so dominant. Is there anything that Illinois can do to keep this game even remotely close? I mean, we saw what they did to Rutgers, absolutely dismantling them. Was it 76 or 78 nothing?
78.
78 nothing. They've just been rolling through teams.
Yeah.
And even, like against Wisconsin, even though they didn't put up all the points, to be able to hold that Wisconsin team to only 7 was impressive. And it's just week in and week out, they don't seem to give teams a chance offensively. So what can this Illinois team do to keep the scoring down and keep it respectable? Or can they keep it respectable?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, I would say.
Yeah, I think, the big thing is for Illinois, Michigan has the number 1, maybe number 2 rated defense yard-wise in the country in terms of, yardage per game. I think it's going to be really – so I just think you have to take that on its face and assume Illinois is not going to score much, if at all. So it's really going to be a matter of, I think, the third phase. I think special teams is going to be really, really big for Illinois, keeping themselves, if you want to call it respectable, for keeping themselves able to, make Michigan have to drive the ball 85 yards. Don't give them a short field.
Exactly.
If Illinois gives, say, the number of penalties they had against Purdue or doesn't, capitalize on the number of turnovers they had against Rutgers, stuff like that, if Michigan is starting drives on Illinois' side of the field, it's going to be a touchdown.
Game over.
9 out of 10 times. And so I think that third phase is really going to matter. You can't muff punts. You got to get good punts out of Ryan Frayne. If you got a field goal opportunity with Chase McLaughlin, he's got to nail it. You can't miss extra points.
Yep.
Good kickoff coverage. A lot of the little things. And so that's going to come down to guys who haven't had a lot of playing time. And so it'll be an interesting test of those guys' preparation, anxiety, playing a homecoming game at Michigan Stadium, one of the most historic, enormous, amazing buildings in college football. Are the lights going to be too bright? I mean, it's 2:30 in the afternoon, but will the metaphorical lights be too bright for some of those young guys?
And I don't think there's really any other way to put it other than the fact that Illinois literally needs to be perfect in every aspect of the game if they want to at least compete in Ann Arbor this weekend. And just to go off of Peter's point, I think the field position game can be really important in this game just because from Illinois' standpoint, their best shot of scoring is if they're going to have to drive less than 50 yards, and their best shot at stopping Michigan is if Michigan's going to have to drive over 50 yards to get to that end zone. So I think if Illinois is able to battle from a field position standpoint, whether that's getting a turnover or getting some big-time punts out of Ryan Frayne, I think that's where they're going to have to get most of their momentum to try and put some points up on the board. they're big-time underdogs going into Michigan, and it's very understandable considering just the opponent that they'll be facing on Saturday. But I think it just starts with the small ball from there for the Illinois team.
You mentioned putting points up on the board. That'll start with the quarterback position, of course, and we're not exactly sure who will be under center. Could be Chase Crouch. We've seen a lot of him the last 2 weeks. Maybe Wes will be healthy. We're not sure what the status of his back is. But from your guys' perspective, let's say Wes is healthy. Who would you rather see out there if you're an Illinois fan? And who do you think, I don't want to say gives them the best chance to win because they're not going to win this game, but maybe who gives them a chance to put up more points between Chase and Wes?
I mean, we talked about this from a sort of long-term program perspective and who you want on the field for the growth, but just on the basis of the game itself, I would rather have Wes out there just for his ability to run the offense, because little mistakes are going to be so magnified against a team of Michigan's caliber. And so, I mean, it sounds, again, it's sort of a weird thing to desire, but if they can play mediocre football with little, no mistakes and just not gaining a lot of yards, that's arguably a safer result than having a younger guy potentially miss some stuff in the playbook. And that's not a reflection on Chase Crouch at all. He's played very admirable, but you can't know this playbook. You can't know Illinois football. You can't know the guys on the line. You can't know the receivers better than Wes Lunt, just for the experience that he has in college football in general, but especially at Illinois. He just is in a position to be this. There's a reason he's a starter and a team captain. And so I just think for that reason, you're going to get fewer mistakes out of both Wes Lunt and the offense if Wes Lunt is the one lining up behind center.
I think that's a great way to put it, the fact that Illinois' mistakes would be magnified in this type of game against Michigan. And for that reason, I want to go with Wes Lunt for giving Illinois the better shot of winning. Just from an experience standpoint, I would judge that his 5th year is better than Chase Crouch's 2nd year at that spot for the Illini.
And Chase Crouch's 2nd start.
Exactly.
Imagine your 2nd career start is at Michigan Stadium. That's terrifying.
110,000 people watching you.
That is so scary.
Exactly.
That stadium is huge.
So I couldn't even imagine a younger player like Crouch stepping into that position. If he makes 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, just how powerful that would truly be just in that position on the road. Last weekend when Chase made that ill-advised throw that led to his first interception, that's what really made me question if he would be mature enough to step into a game like this. And I just don't think he's there yet from a mature standpoint to compete in a game like this, and that's why I'd give the ball to Wes.
And we will see who gets the ball on Saturday when the Illini take on the University of Michigan. When we get back, plenty of more talk to come on that game, but you should join us. We're live at the Hub, a brand new sports bar on campus at the corner of First and Heeley.
Hey, this is Susanna Collins with Comcast Sportsnet, and you're listening to the Illini Drive.
We got our first win in a while, but we go by the 24-hour rule, so after Sunday, that was kind of over, and we're on to the next one.
And welcome back into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports weekdays from 6 to 7. We're broadcasting live from the Hub on the corner of First and Heeley. We'll continue the conversation with the Illinois and Michigan game that is this Saturday. We got a lot of prop bets to go through and plenty of more analysis about this game. Obviously, it's going to be a difficult one for Illinois, so we're going to have a little bit of fun with some of these prop questions. So we'll start for the Illinois offense. I've set the over-under, I should say my Vegas bookie, has set the over-under at 9.5 points. So basically, can Illinois get into double digits against this very, very stingy Michigan defense?
Well, first things first, that bump you heard was Reggie Corbin, redshirt freshman running back, talking about, he was asked sort of, do you get momentum from this? Is it a team as good as Michigan? Do you gain any semblance of momentum when you come in off of a win as opposed to coming in off of a loss? And he said, well, we have sort of the 24-hour mindset. At least he claimed that. I don't know if his teammates would agree, but 24-hour mindset as far as celebration goes. They celebrated that Rutgers win for 24 hours, and now they're back to work. I don't know if some of those players might still be thinking about it, but that was his suggestion. And for that reason, I'm saying they stay in single digits, Illinois. I don't think they hit.
Just not enough time to prepare, or this defense is just that good?
I just think the defense is way too good. I think it's still like the question of I don't know. I think it would be in the team's benefit. Now, maybe Lovey has done this in private, but I think it's to the team's benefit to know whether Wes or Chase is starting.
Exactly.
Right? And he hasn't told us publicly. Maybe he's saying something else privately, but, like, I think this team is going to benefit from knowing who their quarterback will be and knowing what their identity is.
So do you think they get 6, 7, they get shut out?
I think they get a touchdown. I think they'll score late. I don't think it's quite as bad as Rutgers where they'll get shut out, but I bet you it'll be somewhere in the range of 45-7 or something like that, and the touchdown is going to come late.
I'm with Peter. I think this is a hard question to answer just because we don't know who's going to be playing that quarterback spot for Illinois. Just judging off of how that team played last week, I would say absolutely not. I don't think they're going to get any more than 9.5 points in this game, 9 points, let's say, over Michigan. But if Wes Lunt's there, I think I would give the team a little bit more credit than just 7 points, Peter. I'd give them 2 touchdowns, let's say. Not far above that 9.5 mark. I don't think Illinois will get far above 10, let's say. But I still think that they can put up at least 1 touchdown and 1 field goal. At least, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, obviously, we're judging off of paper here. We have no idea.
Well, and I think that, like, my point, again, is not only that the quarterback uncertainty makes it tougher to predict, I think it actually hurts the team's preparation. Because if they've been preparing with Chase Crouch saying Tuesday, Wednesday, and Lunt all of a sudden is back on Thursday, not having, I just think that throws them off.
Right. And I don't know. I think either way, with Wes coming in, the offense will put up more. With Chase in, they're not going to put up as much. That's just my understanding right now.
Keeping it with the offense, I think this is a difficult question to answer because we don't know who will be at quarterback. So I'll open it up a little bit broader. Will any Illinois player who's not a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, get more than 83 yards?
All-purpose?
No, just either on the ground or receiving. No special teams
in
yards.
One category.
Yes. So, in one category, either rushing or receiving. Can somebody get more than 83 yards? If so, who is it?
I think yes, and I think Reggie Corbin. I think he's proven that he's an athlete for all seasons. Right? He's. I think regardless of the circumstance, he can put up yards. I think against a team like Michigan, he's not going to break any runs.
Right.
20, 30, 40 yards down the field, but I think he'll be able to move enough. I think he'll be able to find enough space just on skill alone to hit that 83 yards on the ground. And again, I think that once you sort of hit garbage time and Michigan puts in its backups, I think Illinois' offense may get some late game success just for morale reasons.
I'm surprised by your answer to that question. I think that's actually a really difficult number to hit for anyone.
Really?
Because I think it's going to be hard for one running back to be on the field enough to get enough carries because they are going to be so dog-tired and so beat up to hit that 83 mark. I definitely don't think a receiver is going to hit it because if Chase is out there, he's not going to be able to throw it enough. And if Wes is out there, I don't think he's in sync enough.
Well, but that's exactly my point. The fact that they have 3 running backs, I think, sort of mitigates some of that.
Yeah,
because I think Kendrick Foster is going to take a lot of the big hits. So I think Corbin's in space. Especially maybe it's receiving, maybe he's taking screen passes, but I think that, again, I don't think that they're going to put Foster, knowing this defense, I don't think they're going to put Corbin in a position to get knocked around a lot. They're going to get him in positions where he can be out in space, juking corners and safeties and not having to run between the tackles. I think definitely Vaughn and Foster will take a lot of hits, and I think they'll save some of the open field stuff for Corbin. That's why I picked Corbin rather than the other 2.
Yeah, to get 83, though, you're really going to have to put in some work, and you might have to break, which
easy.
will be difficult against this Michigan defense. But anyway, Jeff, your thoughts on the question?
I don't think anybody's going to get over 83, and I think just because Illinois is going to have such a balanced run attack in this game, or at least they're going to try to have a balanced run attack, that the running backs are all going to maybe get upwards of 50 yards, let's say, but none of them are going to break that 83 mark. I would say in this game specifically, I think the focus would be on Foster getting the most yards out of all those running backs just from a physicality standpoint. We know that he can run in between those tackles and at least go head-to-head with a defensive player. So that's where I would give him the edge over the other running backs, but I don't think we'll see anybody getting over 83 yards either way.
And flipping it to the defense, coming off of a week where that Illinois defense looked great, was able to take away the football finally like they've been talking about doing all year long. And really just the fruits of their labor finally showing, and I thought they looked good. I'd say even great against the run, the pass, really overall very solid performance from them. But, of course, now they're facing a new beast in Michigan. So
going from literally the worst to first.
Yeah, the basement.
I mean, not quite, but,
Yeah, the basement of the Big Ten to the kings of the Big Ten. Well, maybe it's Ohio State, but, a very, very solid team. So can this Illinois defense create a takeaway on Saturday, and will they?
Ooh, I don't know. Any takeaway at all? Fumble, interception, anything?
Yeah.
Ugh, that's tough. I think maybe an interception. I think Wilton Spate, Michigan's quarterback, is probably the most pedestrian of any of their playmakers.
Yeah.
So I think that there's an off chance that he misses a read, or Darius Mosley, steps in front of a receiver, or one of the defensive ends gets pressure on and deflects a pass. I think that a fluke interception is not impossible. So I'll go with yes. Over, or did you re-ask? Was that an over?
It was a binary. It was a yes or no.
Yes or no. Okay, so I'll go with yes. Yeah.
I think
but I don't think more than one. If we're making it over under, I think I'm even at one.
Okay.
Exactly. I think Illinois might get one turnover in this game if they're going to get a turnover at all. And if there is a turnover, I think it deals with Michigan's quarterback as well, whether Illinois is putting pressure on him or he's just throwing into a spot that's well covered. I think if Illinois looks to get a turnover, it's got to be from the quarterback at Michigan.
And Jeff, earlier we were talking about Jabril Peppers. You said he might be the only player of his kind. Peter, you drew comparisons to Desmond Howard. People, have said Charles Woodson, Percy Harvin, all these big-time names, and that's because of his versatility. They feature him on offense. He's a big-time player on defense and in special teams in the return game. So now I'll pose this question. How many phases will Jabril Peppers score in? Offense, defense, special teams. Will it be more than one? Could it be all three? What do you think?
That's tough. I'll pick two, probably, just for the reason that you go to the guy who is going to score, and he's proven he's going to score, so there's no reason that Michigan won't use him, I think. They're not going to look at this game and go, well, it's Illinois. We don't have to use Jabril as much.
Yeah.
Harbaugh certainly hasn't shown that he's going to let off the gas.
Absolutely.
So
not.
I don't see why not. I go with two, probably offense and special teams, but there's a chance he could pick six, a Chase Crouch duck or a fumble from, he could do three, but I would probably go with two.
Without a doubt, you can mark him for offense, I would say. I don't think there's any chance Illinois completely keeps him out of the end zone.
Right, I think definitely one phase.
And when it comes to special teams, I'm sitting here thinking that we could possibly see him return a kick and a punt if we're lucky enough.
Oh, yeah, that's
true.
Yeah,
I mean, Illinois special teams have been really bad at
with
times.
the way the special team game has been going, and just thinking specifically with that kickoff, if Illinois isn't able to consistently give Michigan a touchback, Jabril's going to have a shot every kickoff to give that a return, and then the punt game is just a disaster for Illinois in general. So I don't know. I think he's going to have two good shots, I would say, special teams and offense, and maybe defense.
And before we go to a quick break, one more question. We saw what this Michigan team can do to bad Big Ten teams when they played Rutgers a couple of weeks ago, destroying them 78-0. I don't think it's going to be anything like that, but it seems as if Illinois is, going to get it handed to them a bit. If you're Lovie Smith in this post-game press conference, how do you turn a big-time loss into a positive? What are some things that you could take away and say, we're excited about what we saw in this phase of the game or this phase of the game, and that's why this is a good thing for our team moving forward?
I think it's going to come down to, can you say we put our stamp on this game somehow, right? If they can sack, even if Michigan's offense scores 40 points, if they can sack Wilton Spate in the first three quarters 3 or 4 times, right, the number one defensive guys versus the number one offensive guys, I think that matters, right? If they can for however long hold Peppers scoreless or hold him to a minimum yardage wise, that's going to be a victory. They're going to need to look for sort of individual victories. Yep. Can we run the ball against a defense the caliber of Michigan? Maybe they're not going to score, but if your yards per carry average is in the 5s, maybe even in the high 4s, I think that's a thing you can focus on. So I think it's going to come down to that kind of stuff. He's going to have to look and see if his team, in terms of spinning it, he's going to have to look and see if his team showed the ability to sort of withstand the adversity of playing a team as good as Michigan. You have to be able to do something well to put any positive spin on it, and you have to be able to do something well to come away from a game like this and not just say, we just got smacked. That game film was a waste.
Going off that point, I think a good way to look at this game could be just break it down by quarter. and see if Illinois won the first, won the second, third, fourth quarter.
If they can win a quarter.
Just look at a quarter comparison and break down the two teams and see how those two are faring in that way. I think that's a good way for Illinois to look back at a game this weekend against Michigan. How did they break down in the first, second, third, fourth quarter, so on and so forth, and then from there pinpoint certain things to work on or focus on to improve next week.
We're going to head to a quick break here. Of course, you're listening to Illini Drive. We're broadcasting live from The Hub, a brand new sports bar on campus on the corner of First and Heeley.
Hey guys, this is Erin Andrews, and you're listening to WPGU 107.1.
Welcome back. You are listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
We've enjoyed our time today at the Hub. We hope to be back at some point. We'll let you know when that is, when we know it. But let's get a few more questions in here about Michigan before we go off the air.
Well, I was even going to say some questions about the rest of the season moving forward, so we'll do that.
Right. Take us to the let's get broad.
Yeah, we're at the halfway point in the season. This Illini football team is 2-4. Maybe
Lovey likes to split it up into quarters, so we're now out of the second quarter.
Yes, and we're moving into the third quarter. I think they have not been as good as a lot of fans expected them to be. The Purdue loss was frustrating.
Well, Jeff over here had them at 8-4.
High hopes, man.
Yeah, high hopes, apparently.
The loss to Western Michigan, at least in the fashion that it happened, was frustrating. The way they kind of flopped in the fourth quarter against North Carolina was frustrating. So it hasn't been the perfect first half of the season. But looking into the second half of the season, I want to say put an over-under here at 1.5 wins. You got a couple of possible wins in Northwestern and Minnesota at home for homecoming. Some might say Michigan State with the way they've faltered as of late. So Illinois, over-under 1.5 wins the rest of the way. So can they get 2 or more?
They certainly can.
Oh, are you an optimist?
I'll start with the
Jeff
optimism
is an
on
optimist
this
about
take.
this team.
Just looking at that schedule, I'll give them 4 games they could possibly compete in and possibly walk away with a win. Next week, at home against Minnesota, I'll give them a shot.
Yeah, that's a winnable game.
The following week, at home against Michigan State, I'll still give them a shot. And then November 19th, at home against Iowa, and then the final game of the season on the road at Northwestern. I think that they can win 2 of those games. I would for sure pencil in Northwestern as one of those wins, whether it's going to be Minnesota, Michigan State, or Iowa for that second win. I think Illinois can do it. I think it's still going to take a full team effort in either of those games to have it happen, but I still think Illinois can pick up 2 wins by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think I give them 1 of those 4. I think they haven't shown that they can finish against a team of a caliber better than a Big Ten basement dweller, right? Their only FBS win is Rutgers at this point. So I think they need to prove me something. They need to prove themselves a little bit more to me before I'm willing to pick them in 2 of those games. I think they get 1.
Yeah.
I think one of those teams is going to have a bad week, whether it's at home at Memorial Stadium. I think they stand a chance against Northwestern in Evanston over the Thanksgiving weekend, but I just don't think they're going to get more than 1. I don't have enough confidence in the team's consistency week to week. Again, I think you could put up, even if they put up a 10-point, if they win by double digits against Minnesota on homecoming, I don't think that has a huge impact on them going into Michigan State, just because I don't think they've shown that they can carry momentum week to week. Now that could change, right? If they do pull off a win against Minnesota and keep it close against Michigan State, I definitely would be willing to reevaluate sort of going into Iowa and Northwestern. But as it stands now, I don't think they're going to get more than 1 win. I got them penciled in for 1 more.
And it's really tough because we've seen a different team, it seems like, week by week with this Illinois team. So it's really hard to judge this far out.
And we started broad there. Let's put them under a bit of a microscope here. Is there one player in particular in the second half of the season that you're looking to see develop the most? How about you start with somebody on offense and then somebody on defense? One player, who's not, well, it could be a senior that, you need to see something out of for them to maybe get drafted into the NFL, or maybe it's a younger player who you want to see development out of so they can earn themselves a starting position on this team for 2017.
I think my biggest thing going forward is, can someone other than Malik Turner catch the ball? Right?
So how about a name?
So, well, he's been hurt, so I would say Des Kane has been the missing piece, but he's been hurt, so we'll give him a pass. Justin Hardy, he's not really an NFL guy on anyone's NFL radar, and I'm not sure he will be, but he was billed as being just as fit as when he left. He's billed as having burner speed. You know, he's on all the preseason posters and the stuff, and like, all right, so show me something. Like, he's just not been a big factor. Defenses are not having to game plan for him. Turner has played well to the sort of expectations that we have of him, and Hardy has just been kind of non-existent in terms of being a factor. So I think that's probably my biggest thing. They got to get somebody else who can catch the ball consistently, and I think Hardy should be that guy.
For me, when it comes to the offense, I'm looking at the quarterback spot because I think either way we're dealing with Wes Lunt, a senior quarterback who's going to be fighting for someone's trust in the NFL next season. So if he's going to come back and start at the quarterback position, I think there's definitely some eyes to stick on him just because he's going to be bringing his game each and every week, you would imagine, to the table just because he's eventually thinking about competing for that NFL spot. And then if the conversation or the ball is handed over to Chase Crouch at that quarterback spot, I still think the conversation is interesting because then we're looking at Illinois' future and where the program could be going if Crouch is there ending this season as the starter. Maybe he'll come back next season as the designated starter in Lovey's eyes. So I think there's a lot to look forward to from that quarterback position for the rest of this season moving on.
And with half the season down, half to go, I want to grade the Illinois coaching staff. Lovey, Hardy Nickerson, senior on defense, Garrick McGee on offense. How about a letter grade for each of those three coaches as far as what you've seen from them in the first 6 games?
I'd probably give Garrick McGee the highest of the 3. I think I give him a B-, just for the reason that I think he's done with what he has had to work with and the changes he has made. You can tell there's some really quality coaching going on there, right? He's had a different offensive line for the first 4 weeks. He's had a different quarterback now for the next 2. The running back rotation has been a revolving door until we maybe have seen it solidified. You know, he's making changes. He's playing with it. He's starting redshirt freshmen like Reggie Corbin who have proven themselves in games and not just on the practice field. So B- for McGee. I give Hardy Nickerson a C-. This is his first gig as an defensive coordinator, so I don't think I'd go into the D's, but I think that this defense has not played well enough based on the talent that it has for him to really warrant a good, solid grade. I give Lovey a straight C. I think that he's a passing grade, right? We knew that he wasn't going to have a lot in the cupboard coming in. He needed some time to get his guys. I think we've seen a few problems with things like clock management. They picked up a lot of penalties, which we did not expect to see. So those things are negatives, but I think that you can tell there's professionalism. There's a level of respect that clearly he has the players' respect, clearly he has other coaches' respect. And so far we've seen a little bit of a positive increase on the recruiting front. So sort of breaking even, I think. I give Lovey a C.
And I'm right there on the same ship with Peter. I think overall the coaching staff should level out to basically an average of a C grade. I still think there's a lot to work on with this team, but I do think we've seen a significant jump from this team in years past as well. But I still think that coaching staff needs its time to work with these players, to recruit their actual players itself too, and then just to really develop this new program that's coming around Illinois football. It's going to take some time, and I think that's clear from this year that the team is still working toward that.
Well, it was a lot of fun here live at the Hub. Thanks for listening, whether you're here in the restaurant or in your car at home, listening on the radio, on the airwaves of WPGU 107.1. We're glad that you tuned in. And, of course, we'll be on television, Urbana Public TV, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. So I got to give those viewers a shout-out.